afternoon, YouTube. Here with you at the workshop today. What you are looking at is the low budget, whatever you want to call it, 80s, 70s, 80s modular component stereo system that I'm putting together. I don't know how well you can tell it, but you can see some white, and I'm going to call them extensions on the shelves. And let me take you down a little lower, you can see it a little bit better. That's the ones for the lower shelves there, as you can see. Those were how I got my components to fit. I'll post some pictures of the original shelf, and I even set the turntable on top of it. You can see it in the pictures how much narrower they are. And I never really give it a thought, I don't know why, but it just said this was for component stereos. Well, I think they were later on, the stereos got a little more compact, the components anyway did. And so anywho, this is my compromise. Actually, I ordered another shelf, or Bob did for me, that I was going to use, and then I got to looking at it and I thought, well, I think I can 3D print some extension brackets for those, and basically they are pretty good. I mean, as far as what holds it all together and everything is as it should be. Like I said, that's what I've got going so far. Now, this, back up here, is not satisfactory. I don't like the way this is. My original goal was to put the turntable on the top shelf and the rest of the components on the second shelf. Well, turns out they don't fit in that small space. They come close, but just not quite enough. Now, if I did that, that would leave me an excellent amount of room down here for album storage. So I think what I'm going to do, I think the best course of action for me is to drill 4 new holes to basically mount this shelf here down a little bit lower, and then probably just remove this one here altogether, and that will give me what I want, because there's a basket, as you can see, hanging down there, and I'm going to leave that basket in there. They were kind of handy, I thought. You know, if I wanted to put tapes or anything in there or whatever, I could do that. And that will, what I'm trying, my goal is to get the amplifier, which is on top of that stack right there. This is the amplifier. That's the heat producer. The rest of the components do not produce heat. I say that, you know, any electronics will produce some heat, but they don't produce, this thing's got a big honking transformer in it, so you know it's going to put out some heat. And you can see by the vents in the top of it that it is much more, you know, heat's coming out of it. So basically, that's what's going on there. And I think I'm going to just drill the 4 more holes and remove that bottom shelf. And then to stabilize it a little bit more, because it is a little bit more wobbly than I'd like with the components on it, I'm going to put an X-brace in the back, basically from the bottom of this shelf when we move it down to the bottom of the bottom shelf. And I'll just put X-brace in the back, you know, going back up, down like that. And then I'll attach that to the shelves in the back to where they're rigid and they can't be wobbling back and forth. You know how that works. Not that I, you know, it's not that I need the extra. I mean, you know, this will hardly ever get used, number one, but when it is used, it's not going to have anybody extorting any. I don't know what the term is, but it's not going to have anybody pushing it around. It'll just sit there and play music. So, you know, I don't think there would be any problem with it doing what I want it to do, but I just like the idea of putting that extra brace in, and I'm not really sure that I can make it out of plastic or not, but I'm going to try, and we'll see what happens with it. But again, That's the plan as of right now. So I just kind of wanted to bring you an update on this because I haven't really talked about it much, but all the components are in, obviously. We still need to, the bottom one here is the cassette deck, and I think that's the one that needs most of the problem solving. The FM tuner, which is underneath right now of the turntable, is basically, I think it works because I believe the guy didn't have it hooked up to an amplifier and didn't have any sound coming out. Well, that's the way that works. But, so, and in addition, and I'll flash up a picture of it, but it's sitting here in a box. You can hear it right there next to me. I kind of felt sorry for this guy. You can see in the ad, if you looked at it, he only wanted $1 for this. He started out, and I don't know how long it's been. Bob said it had been on there for a long time, and people, number one, people do not like dual decks. They perceive them as cheap. Now, this is a single deck, and that's, this one is, and that's why I wanted it, was because it is a single deck. I think they're better made, and they're better quality. I think the cheapness of the cassette mechanisms got worse after that, and with the dual decks especially. Now, this one in the box obviously is going to be the Optimus, which is I believe, from what I've seen and what I've looked at and read on Google, this is probably a Pioneer-made deck. And it looks a lot like the Pioneers of that time. So it's got the deck on, obviously you can see it there, the deck's on each side and the controls in the middle. And that's the way that most of those were. The Pioneers, and that's what it said in Google, that Pioneer made a lot of decks for Realistic or Radio Shack. This particular model is the Optimus, but they had a Realistic version of the same exact deck, and it was silver. I've seen somebody working on one of those on YouTube, so it doesn't look to be overly complicated. And this one here says that, I don't know if I showed the problem with it, but it says it doesn't have any power. Now, that's really a easy fix for most things, because it usually turns out to be either a shorted diode or something like that, or open diodes. Anything like that to cause, not to get any power. But this particular one doesn't have a fuse. Now, the Canadian model did, I think. It had a fuse, but... or maybe it was the European model. I don't know. Anyway, not that important. We'll find out. And that's the next thing. That's the next thing that's going to happen to you all. You guys will see. Let's sort of switch over here a little bit. There's the bench. As you can see, let me get this loosened a little bit. It doesn't want to turn. There you go. That's what we're looking at. That's the area we're going to be. Obviously, I don't even know if I told you this, but let's pan up a little bit. I have all of the, I think I said this in a recent. I have all the shelving on that side removed, and that's how that's going to be for a little while until I get my light bracket up. And I am still working on that, and it still is part of the plan. But anyway, that bench there is going to get cleaned off, at least enough areas where I can work on these components. I want to put the Techniques deck up on it first because it does have some problems according to the seller. So we'll see if we can straighten that out, and then maybe once that's done we'll put the Optimus up there and see if we can find out the lack of power for it. And then we can also do some testing. I think I can find some speakers to set up there on the on the bench to test it with. So we'll get all that done, especially that tuner. We'll make sure it's got some output, make sure it does work with an amplifier. So it's going to be, like I say, the next things I will be doing. So until that happens, I guess we'll have to leave you with this parting shot. But again, I think, to me, that's the best way to do this, because if you're sitting in a chair like I am right now, that is at a good height And it would be even better if that turntable was sitting on the shelf directly and not had that tuner underneath of it. So with it at that height, I can sit in a chair like this, play my records, and control all of the controls very easily from my chair. I mean, I don't have to bend down too much. I don't have to do anything like that. Even getting the record from the bottom wouldn't be difficult. So, now, lastly, and I knew you probably thought that was the last thing on this, but there is one more exciting thing to come. The the turntable that you see on top there is the SLBD20. Now, I made no false claims that when I was looking for the one I ended up buying, I was actually looking for an SLBD22. One of those has presented itself to be an affordable option to me, and I have purchased it. So it is on its way, hopefully. I know they have a tracking number, but it has the I'm going to say the fancier. Well, it's fancier. Let's just put it that way. It's basically the same turntable, I believe, from what I've read. With a nice, it's got the markings on the platter for the strobe, and it's got the strobe light on it. I believe it has a frequency adjust where you can actually hone in your speed if you want, and I believe that's going to be a better option. This one was okay. Obviously, it had some downfalls, you know, with the stickers on it. I got most of the stickers on it, and I'm sure I can get that last one off. And it's got that spot on the side that I'm going to fix, and I am going to fix that because I want to try my idea out, and I want to see if that's going to work. It will basically. I've seen turntables, like I said before, with the little inserts in them like that on the top. So it's not going to be. I think Gerard made a few like that. But it's not going to be anything bad looking, and it will get rid of that hideous crack and missing part, and I think that'll make it work much better. Now this new one I'm getting, I believe everything is intact, and I even believe the belt is there, the cartridge is there, I believe the 45 adapter is there. So probably the only thing I didn't see was the power cord, but those are readily available, and I could just use this one for the time being. And the ground cable, which grounds the turntable to the amplifier, reduce the hum. And so those two items are, like I said, it will be fine. The top on it looks in pretty good shape. I did see a couple of small cracks, but nothing like this one. I mean, it looked much better. So hopefully it will be the one I'm going to use with this system. And like I said, this one's going to be relegated to basically other different uses. But having a turntable is not a bad thing, especially one of these. These are pretty good turntables. So we'll figure out what to do with it. Don't worry about that. So anyway, now I have finished. I have done my due. I've had my day in court. So let me leave you, like I said, with this again, that we will be working on the cassette deck is on the lower there, as you can see. That will be our first item upon the bench, and we'll get that in top shape, or whatever you want to call it, and so that can be basically used with the system. And then I guess the next things we'll do is test the amplifier and the FM tuner, get those two together up on the bench, and some speakers, and make sure that all works. Now I think, from what I remember, and I don't really remember a lot, but I think that all the amplifier worked properly. I'm not really, I can't remember him saying anything bad about it, or maybe he just didn't have it tested. One of the two. But anyway, we'll test it. We'll make sure it's working, and like I said, we'll go from there. But by that time, maybe get all that done. At the meantime, I'm going to be working on the shelf, getting that one second shelf lowered a little bit. I haven't decided exactly how low I'm going to go with it, but it is going to be enough to where there will be enough room in that top, because I want to put the amp on top, and so the heat won't be affecting anything. It will have, it won't affect the turntable because there will be a shelf in between it. But I want plenty of room for because you need space on the top and the bottom of devices like that to dissipate the heat. So we'll get it set up, and if it's a little lower than I initially was going to go, that's fine, because there's plenty of room underneath for those albums to sit. I've done measured that. Albums are basically a foot square, so like I said, there's plenty of room for that. That X brace in the back will provide a backstop for the albums. That's good too. So this is the thing. Again, I'm not going to repeat what I said before. This is what we got going on, and like I said, I'm going to say good day to you guys. Hope you enjoyed watching. And I guess we'll see you. See ya. How's that?